Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. I'm glad you can make it.
Yes, I am here. Finally. Apologies, folks. Listen, I was a night shift last night and I overslept, and the Duke was not best pleased with me. I came when I was like, I just woke up. He's like, do you see me smiling? So don't be fooled by the nice hair and the quiet demeanor. Oh, he can be.
So we've got some comments already. This is my favorite one. Sorry, my one of the co-hosts is running late. I don't know who put that one in, but someone typed that up. I don't know who done it.
Yeah, jury's still out.
Yeah. Is your audio high enough?
Yeah, I can hear good. Let me turn up mine.
I can't hear you very well. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Episode 3 of Hawkeye. One YouTube channel described it as the perfect episode. Mr. P or Mr. LP, what did you think of the episode?
You know what? It's actually just overall, it's actually growing on me now.
You liked it last week as well, so it's just better.
Yeah, but I mean, my initial reservations about it has actually made me, in a way, I'd kind of prejudge thinking it wasn't going to be great compared to the other ones. But the first episode, I thought, I said, it was great. I enjoyed it. We discussed that last week. I was thinking, let's see how it goes now, week 3. But after watching it, only one little issues I've got with it, but it's nothing with the episode overall. It's just with a character.
Okay.
That's the only issue. But apart from that, I thought it's a really well done series. And then I've just noticed little nuances that I'm going to link between that and Eternals and where they're going.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which I'm thinking, maybe.
I'm looking forward to hearing your theories regarding that. That should be interesting, and a first as well for this channel.
Wow, he's aspiring enough. This is what happens, people, when you overslept. The Duke has the platform, so he will just get them jabs in. And when I was being late, because I'm late, I have to take them shots. I'm trying to cover up, but I can't. He's getting them through round the guard.
So I like to think that actually through the process of these podcasts, I'm making you a better human being as well. That's what I'm hoping to achieve. I'm teaching you about critical thinking. I'm teaching you about morality. I'm teaching you about all these things, storytelling techniques. I'm hoping.
Yeah, and also how to have, take criticism, constructive criticism, and have a thick skin. I'm learning all of that.
Not too thick, because I want some of what I say to actually go through that skin and register.
It's going through. This armor isn't vibranium; it's still going through.
Well, that's good. That's good. Anyway, I'm going to go straight into the big question. Was that Wilson Fisk in the in the flashback?
Yeah, you could see the hand. We know that he's a well-built figure, and the hand wasn't of someone. It wasn't like a skinny hand where you could say, she was like, hey, uncle. And the fact that they leave it like that, where she didn't say, hey, uncle, so-and-so, I think they're just making it, just more little teasers right there. Because if it was a regular uncle, it'd be like, hey, Uncle T, Uncle Manny, but the fact it's just, hey, uncle. They're just leaving it that way, and you just see the hand. If it was anyone else, you would have shown everything. You wouldn't need to be so mysterious with it. So, yeah, it is unofficially announced, but I think we all kind of deduce from that it is.
So just to give some context, we see a flashback of Echo, Maya's life as a child. We see how she went to school with being deaf, and she was put into a class with non-deaf kids as well. And we find out as well that actually she has another disability in regards to her leg as well. And it's almost as if she's been put in there to kind of like, prepare her for the life which she will lead when she grows up. So we see her dad as well. Okay. I'm sure you
don't give me that. No, I'm just saying the reason why I'm saying that is I don't think it's necessarily she was put in there to basically like learn how to deal with it. I think basically it probably stems from the era, like where we grew up from, the era, I should say, sorry, not era, where we grew up from, where a lot of things weren't really acknowledged and weren't dealt with accordingly. In terms of, like now, if there's disability within, with a student in certain classes, they'll have special needs, assistant teachers. Whereas when you come from certain era, like different, backgrounds and certain time frame, they didn't have that in place. So you just either you go to a specifically special needs school, or if you haven't got that support, whether it be financial or whatever, you just have to just go into a normal school and deal with it.
I take your point on board, but I think in terms of the storytelling here, I don't think they've done anything by accident. I think they've done that. I think they've told, otherwise it'll be pointless telling that bit of the story, like, Daddy, why haven't I gone to school with people like me? It's like, when you tell it, like when you do story writing, you don't put moments in there which aren't going to contribute in some way to the wider story line. Have you heard the concept of Chekhov's gun?
No.
So that's basically a storytelling concept where it says, like, if you're going to introduce a gun into a scene, like, make that gun mean something. It's pointless you coming into a scene, waving a gun around, putting it down, and then that gun doesn't actually play any kind of role in that scene. So I think for that reason, I think they made a point of her not going to school for deaf kids a point, because I think they were just trying to, like, prepare her for all kinds of obstacles which she would face, living the life she was going to live.
Yeah, no, I get that. I take that on board. But also, it could also be based on your situation in terms of the fact that you weren't able to. Because I'm pretty sure if he was able to, if he had the finances, the money, he would have probably put her in that.
I'm sure Uncle FISK had the finances. If it is Uncle FISK, that is. I mean, if it is Uncle FISK.
But maybe at the time he didn't have that kind of money.
That kind of power. Maybe.
Because that looks like it was probably maybe about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Did they give her? They did give her a year date in the. Was it 2003? They gave. I can't remember. No, 2003. I can't remember. But
So it was a good. It was a good while ago. So it just makes you think that could also be a factor. Maybe they never had that kind of money then to do it, and maybe if it is Uncle FISK. If the dad was a career criminal, which means that he never had any steady job, in order for him to get his child into a school like that, that would probably lead a lot of attention to them, because they'd be like, how would you don't have a job, you're not even working a minimum wage job. So how would you be able to afford?
I'll take that. I'll take that on board. I just think that for my...
I understand. I agree with your point on that, but I'm just saying we could also interpret it this way as well. So I think the way they've done it, it was done masterfully, where you could actually interpret it both ways. You could say, well, it's because he's in that position why they're not able to, but at the same time you could also say it's because they were probably preparing her. It was kind of like training in a sense, like she was being trained, programmed how to actually, like he says, navigate between two worlds. But if you also look at that sentence, what he says, that's often sometimes what parents would do to kids when you're not able to actually afford something, where kids are young, so they won't really know the broader aspect of things.
This was a storytelling technique, because you're watching it as the viewer and you might actually assume, oh, Maya's dad must be not well off, hence the reason he hasn't been able to afford for her to go to a school for deaf kids. And then I think it's a nice storytelling swerve when actually, oh no, actually Maya's dad is involved in the criminal underworld. So actually the reason for her not being able to go to that school is actually an entirely different reason. I actually think that was just like a really cool screenwriting ploy invoked there. But anyway, it's just, I think we've exhausted that point. But yeah, we see Maya going to what form of martial arts was that they were doing?
I'm not sure. It's not. It kind of looks like maybe a little bit like judo or tai chi.
Okay.
Because it was more about defense, using the person's power against them, as opposed to you being the aggressor. So it kind of looks a bit like in Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
When his parents were fighting, whereas the dad was more aggressive and the mom was just basically using counters, just like flowing and count, because that's exactly what she did. She didn't do anything but use her opponent's force against him. So everything that he did, she basically just let him basically defeat himself.
Let's call it Lucha Libre. The only reason I say that is because I was watching the documentary of how they made Black Widow 2. And actually, the actors actually learned a lot of Lucha Libre to help them with the stunts and the fight scenes, which I found quite interesting. But anyway, I digress. But that does actually link on to something that might happen in episode 4. So, yeah, and we see, like, Maya, like, beating up this kid who's, like, twice the size. And then we see a hand. So, you know, a hand come to pick her up, you know, from Lucha Libre school. And we see the rather chubby hand, and we see I think we see the cufflinks as well, don't we?
Yeah.
And we hear that kind of big voice. Another thing my brother noticed, now my brother can't be here today, but he did notice, he left a comment for me to read out. He says that in the scene where you see Ronin attacking Maya's dad and Maya's like dad's crew.
Yeah.
There's a sign in the corner, which I didn't notice, my brother noticed, that says Fat Man Autos, which was like obviously the front for whatever criminal activity they were doing. Now, as you said it yourself, Kingpin isn't exactly the most, how would you say it, the most Marga man in the world?
Well, no offense to anyone out there who's not Marga. You know, Marga is a Caribbean term for skinny. You know, that's why they say Marga. But yeah, it just means that, you know, he's a big guy. You know, he's been that way from the get-go, which is why we knew it wasn't, you know, it's possibly him just by seeing the hand. You know, you can tell certain attributes by character just by the little something small. You know, you don't have to give something big away. Like, you know, you see with Batman, it was just literally, you could see the bat sign, you know, oh, that's Batman. So with the fact of, we know the connection between Echo and Kingpin, just by seeing and know what Kingpin looks like based on the comics and the series before, you know, from the anime as well as the Punisher series, just seeing the hand, you just said, oh, that would only be one person. That could only be one person.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be. And to be honest, Damien, if it turns out not to be Kingpin, and if it turns out not to be a Vincent D'Onofrio, it's actually going to take me out of the entire series. Like, I'm enjoying this, but if it turns out now how we had a conversation about Spider-Man, and if Toby and Andrew aren't in it, people are going to be disappointed. But I'm kind of like prepping myself because they haven't given any like blatant clues, but this is a blatant clue for the Kingpin.
Well, to me, like I said last time to you, I said I think a blatant clue that would say he's not in it would be Andy Garfield's Twitter account, or it'd be going.
Yeah, but this is like an actual, exactly. But this is an actual like clue within the show. And for him now not to be in it, especially after Vincent D'Onofrio even tweeted himself, "Oh, I'm looking ready forward to Hawkeye" before episode 1 aired. You know, if it's not Kingpin and if it's not Vincent, as good as this series is, I think I'm going to be heavily disappointed if it's not him.
No, I second that because you know all the signs point exactly to that. And I mean, in the past, it turns out to be true when we've had all those indications, like we did in the Loki series, where we were trying to figure out who's the big bad. And, you know, you were saying, oh, I think it's Kang. And I was like, we're not quite sure, you know, but all the signs, the little signs were there, were being, you know, you were looking at, look, there was a statue, there was this, there was that. So there was all certain little clues that was there that you could say, see, that's all pointing to that. And had it not been, you know, again, we would have been slightly, you know, well, not slightly, we would have been disappointed because even though we're saying maybe, you know, Evie's the bad guy, but at the same time, it could be kind of like, well, maybe it's a bit of both, but we weren't quite sure. And in the end, it turns out we were both kind of right because he was the big bad, and then she turns out to be the bigger bad because she killed him and then became the big bad. So we were right in that aspect. So I think it would be the same now with all these little, little signs and clues that they're leaving. If it turns out that it's not him.
So I was thinking about as well, like what other Marvel characters could it be other than Kingpin, just to prepare myself.
Rhino.
I couldn't think of any, to be fair. Like unless they like pick some random character who appeared in one issue of Marvel Team Up from 1979. I can't think of who else it could be other than Kingpin. I mean,
definitely not Rhino, because he's never been known as like the brain.
And he's never been high up the food chain as well in his
Yeah, he's just a hired muscle.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm thinking of some left field ones, but maybe it was just the Blob coming out of nowhere.
I was going to say that from before. I was like thinking, the Blob coming through or whatever. But nah.
Well, my other guess is they've like rarely invoked the multiverse, and it's just going to be Fat Bastard from the Austin Powers movies.
You never know. It could be. Everyone wants to get into Marvel products now, so you never know. Could be.
Just telling Mayer to like get in his belly, but no, yeah, I think it's a very and the fact as well, like other people said that the hotel from the first episode is the hotel which Kingpin buys in the Daredevil series on Netflix. It just I mean, and Marvel, because Marvel introduced the multiverse, it's up to them if they want to carry this on from the Netflix shows as well. They could just say now the Netflix stuff is just actually another branch of the multiverse, but this is our version of Kingpin, or they can just can carry on from the Netflix show. It's entirely up to Marvel and Kevin Feige what they do. And even I wouldn't be too disappointed either way, as long as it tells a good story.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact with the multiverse now, like you said, with everything, I mean, but then it just depends what character they're going to actually keep in the MCU, from which ones are going to go over to Sony's.
I mean, Sony done this very weird thing as well, where they kind of announced 3 more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, and then they sent out another statement saying, "Oh, we might have been a bit premature in saying that." All very weird. You can't trust anything like either Sony or Disney say when it comes to these things. It's like, Disney announcing Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk, then denying it, and then confirming it like a month later. It's like,
yeah, but you can go when you go on Google to type in like She-Hulk's cast, it comes up with her. It's got all the cast members. So I mean, it would be crazy to. We're like, no, that's not.
Yeah, but at the time they announced it, and then they renounced it, and then they announced it again 2 months later. This was like during the pandemic, and it was just really like confusing. Yeah, I'm just saying, the studios are doing some bizarre things. It's almost like one part of the studios is talking to the other part. Like, did we announce this? They announce it, and the other part says, "No, you haven't been to announce it yet." And it just all sounds. It sounds like any workplace, in all fairness.
You never know what's going on.
Exactly. So yeah, I think I'm with you. That is Kingpin, and that is going to be even that voice, that kind of laugh, which we kind of heard. That did sound a bit like Vincent as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when they'll introduce them in it. If it will be maybe episode 4, 5. Or maybe just at the end, or maybe not until the end credits of the series.
Well, I'm still going with what I said, that they probably release Spider-Man on the 15th, because that's going to correspond with the penultimate episode of Hawkeye coming out. So I have a feeling that possibly we're going to see Hawkeye in the Spider-Man movie, and we're going to see Kingpin in the Hawkeye movie. In that way, they're dropping both bombs at the same time, and that might even be the reason why they done episode 1 and 2 of Hawkeye at the same time, just to get all the dates in line.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, I am looking quite forward to that. But this episode was it was actually a really fun episode. Like, these episodes aren't blowing me away, but we just put like that really comfortable sweater, and you're just really comfy, and you just feel really snug. that's what these episodes do to me. I just feel really nice and snug and comfortable watching these episodes.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I'm really hoping that we get to see a lot more of the Tracksuit Mafia, because to me they're like one of the highlights of the series.
Bro.
Like, you know, their interaction, and just, you know, it's like, it's comedy gold. I mean, I would love to see actual Tracksuit Mafia series, which they could, because think about it, they're on like,
Well, the Tracksuit Wreckers is also known.
but remember, their daytime job is like they're like,
Yeah, that's their front, isn't it?
They're like movers, ain't they? Like relocate to, I don't know, what would you call them?
A removals company.
Yeah, like a removal company and stuff. So it would be interesting just to see the day-to-day interaction, how they
cover as movers, but at the same time trying to like maintain the criminal enterprise.
They're not exactly the brightest bunch, are they? Like, I mean, but they're fun. I mean, when the guys there having the big argument, when he's having the big argument with his girlfriend on the phone, and then he comes and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to see, what was it, the Magic Dragon?"
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, the Magic Dragon. And he's like, she's like, "Yeah, well, you know, maybe she just wants to go with you because, you know, to punish." "No, I really like it. She doesn't like it." They're like, but she doesn't want to go with me. She wants to go with her sister. You know what? It's like, oh, maybe
he just doesn't want to lose face in front of his boys, does he?
But he didn't care. Remember, it's like, let me go get pen and paper and write down the advice. And the only thing that ruined it for me was that they didn't let him get back in time to actually start taking notes of what to do, whatever. Because, you know, it's about building relationships. I want to see the guy, you know, go home to a happy home. You know, you don't want to have a miserable work life and then you go home and, you know, there's problems at home as well too. You know, at least if you get your butt kicked at work, you can go home knowing that you fix things with the missus.
Yeah. So so we start off with this amazing scene. Obviously, like Hawkeye and Kate break out of their shackles after they've been captured by the Tracksuit Mafia, and Echo's on the scene. As well, we'll see a few cool fight scenes. You see Echo smash Hawkeye's hearing aid, and then you see them escape the building, and they're going to get into the car, the Dodger, which is actually the car they use in the comics, but they get into a different car. And I thought it was really handy that the cameraman just happened to be sitting in the backseat of the car throughout the entire scene. I'm surprised I didn't notice him sitting there, just like filming everything. But honestly, that was an amazing. Well,
when you're ready for your life, you're not going to worry about him who's in the back there or whatever. So
I'd be like, sir, that's an extremely expensive camera you have there.
I think it would have been more noticeable if it was just Hawkeye alone in the car and he's in there. Then you'd have probably the seatbelt sign going off, because it's like, you know those cars are sensitive with the weight or whatnot if you don't have the seatbelt on everyone in there. But the fact that the passenger and the driver has it on, so you probably won't hear anything going off, because you'll be like, what's that? Oh, someone else is in here. But none of that happened, so it means that was A-okay. I thought it was great. Now, let me just tell you quickly what my only issue I have is with most Marvel series and most series, you know, like the understudy goes to a really hard time. They're learning stuff or whatever, but she just seems like, I think they're just trying to make her too OP, and she's not.
Okay, no, I think that's a fair thing to say.
She's learning too fast and doing, you know, the way they collab together. It's as if they've been working. You expect that kind of teamwork and that kind of connection between him and Black Widow, because they've worked together for X amount of time. He's now at a disadvantage while he's working with her, in the sense when he was working with Black Widow and they went on God knows how many missions together to build that kind of chemistry to know, you know, who's attacking up from who attacking low and whatnot. He had perfect hearing then. He didn't go through the things what he go through now. Now he's at a stage where he's slightly older. He's got, you know, hearing problem and everything else. And at that point, he didn't even have his hearing aid in. And they're still able to work in unison almost flawlessly. I just thought it's just a bit too much. Like, either they're trying to underplay him or they're trying to overplay how intelligent and how wise she is and how quick she picked things up or whatever. And to me, if they don't rectify that, you need to see you get your butt whooped for continuous amount of time for you to learn and grow, for it to really be believable. So you could say, yeah, you know what? Okay, this is good. Tony Stark, even when he first started out, he had failures. She doesn't seem to really have any failure unless you class her shooting the bell, the Liberty Bell in her school and, at the college and damaging that as a failure. There was like,
I think you make a good point. I think maybe they could touch upon her being, it's difficult, isn't it? Because maybe they could play more on her being a little rich kid. Maybe to give her that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of those privileged kids like, oh, woe me, mother cut my credit card off. I'm going to go use my kung fu skills with the one-eyed dog and save the world. There's no way either you're overplaying her or you're underplaying all the other characters, because the tracksuit mafia has been around for probably a good amount of time, working as,
I think one
heavy-hand tacticians. And you're telling me that she, who's not had any battle experience, were able to just defeat all of them, literally defeat all of them and escape. At the same time, you make them look so stupid, but then at the same time, they were smart enough to find out her identity and everything in less than no time in the first 2 episodes. You have to have a better balance.
Yeah, I think from a writing point of view, you have an issue. Because if you do give her that flaw where she's a little rich kid, and it suddenly makes the character very hard to like.
Not really, because you can make it that way. No, as in you could make it that way, Manny, but give her something. As in, like we're all kind of suspecting that the mom is like the big bad in terms of like the relationship with the stepdad. Play on that. Make it seem, okay, at first she was a spoiled rich kid. Now she finds out what her mom's about. Even make it more twisted, saying, you know what, maybe the mom killed the dad. Do something that would actually make her. So even if she's on that front, that would bring her back to the audience, because then you'd be like, she was a rich brat because she was sheltered. So she didn't know what was really going on. Yeah. Now she's had tragedy and we see what's actually gone on. Now we didn't like her, but we understand her situation. So you'll respect her. And sometimes that makes it better. You might not like the character initially, but you respect them. And once you respect them and they kind of grow on you, you then really get to appreciate them because you see the growth. But there's nothing to show that there's any growth. She's just powerful.
I think the issue is we've only got 6 episodes. And I think the writers probably thought we need the fans to fall in love with this character.
No, man. Look at, why I understand your point, what you're trying to make, but you know why I said they could have done a better job? Because they done that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He didn't just
but those are 2 characters we already knew.
But I'm saying we still, even within those episodes, remember, he still had to go through certain trials and certain doubts and everything else before he became Captain America and was accepted. But she's just literally coming in like she's Hawkeye or whatever, to come out, even things which I thought was a bit corny how they did it, which they're trying to play on nostalgia, but it's not done. It wasn't done right to me. Was when she was designing, you need a brand, and out of everything in this day and age, she decided to come out with the old school 70s design for Hawkeye.
But that was a cute little thing for hardcore fans like me to go, oh, that's the Hawkeye I know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It would be great if it came from a different perspective, like she's looking at, I've been going at the history of thing. Do something that would make it seem more like with Loki. We loved old school variant Loki with the old school image, because then you got to see like, oh, he's old school, so he's probably and he's a variant, so he's from a different time. That could possibly work. But if she's from a privileged background where she hasn't got no history of anything to do with anything like that, then why would she come up with that? Even in WandaVision, it worked when Scarlet Witch was wearing the old school costume, because they made it seem like, it's a fancy dress Halloween party. That worked. But there was nothing in this that would make you think, why would she come out with a design like that? Based on how all the Avengers are now, that she's seen. She's only used to seeing what she's seen now. She could have come out with a different design and then leave that open to interpretation, say, maybe next time they could come out with something like that. You could play on that later on in the series, but I think it was just too cramped to get all of that in too quickly. Same way they got her chemistry with him, where she's able to.
Only you could overthink at that point. That minor little plot point was just a bit of
Yes,
fan service
I
for
have
people
to,
like
because I want the
me
nostalgia
to
to
rub
be
their
great.
hands together and reminisce about the times they were reading the West Coast Avengers when they were 8 years old.
Exactly, and she wasn't even born. You know those people that's never experienced something
That's the
like
point.
this.
She doesn't know about the old comics. She's just.
So then, how would she know to come up with that design?
Because that was an original idea in her head, within the context of.
You know what? You know what? I'll give you that. I'll give you that. It's the same way now you got these dances.
Original idea she's come up with in her head. That's the only reason. I think you're overthinking this massively.
No, you're right. I'll take that. You know why? I'll take that 100% what you just said, because, like, for instance, us growing up, we know the Running Man dance as old school Running Man dance, whereas now you got these kids now that's got their version of a Running Man, which is nothing like a Running Man.
You want to perform the Running Man so that people know what you're talking about.
No, I won't be dancing the Running Man. But y'all know, go and Google the Running Man on YouTube when you finish.
I'll clap.
I don't think you do the Running Man to the clap. Like, okay, guys, Running Man, 3, 2, 1.
Be blocked straight away. Sorry,
but yeah, that's my only issue. Like, I think they need to tone down how they're trying to force feed how well she's learning things, considering he hasn't even taught her anything. So it's not like he's taught her anything for them to have that kind of chemistry where it's like flawless.
I take your point, and I do take your point. I do think that it is a bit disbelievable. It is difficult to believe that she's so good so quickly. Like the
exactly,
bit
without learning or no training.
Which was a lovely part where, like, Hawkeye's deaf and he can't hear what Kate's saying, but Kate's saying all these things about the dog needs to walk and this kind of stuff. Hawkeye can't hear her, but Hawkeye's actually thinking the same thing. Like, yeah, we need to say that.
Not then. Remember, he was thinking about stuff first, and then after he said it after, like, yeah, maybe you should take the dog for a walk. So that was pretty cool or whatever. But
yeah, that was really nice. But the point I wanted to make was that, like, Clint does say, like, you're one of the best archers I've ever seen, which was a way for the fans to believe that Kate can become an Avenger. I take your point. Sometimes when the issue writers have sometimes, especially in superhero. By the way, you're getting requests here to dance. So I don't know why you're not dancing, because the people are requesting that you dance.
Dance, Davie, dance.
I think the problem you have is that, you know, you've got to kind of marry up reality with telling the story.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you concentrate too much on reality, it can just make it really boring. So I think sometimes you do just have to suspend your belief a little bit. But I take your point on board. I do think, yeah, I think if they touched upon maybe how her mum, Madame Mask, is actually this really skilled fighter herself, who has like a proper shady past, and she's like secretly been like bestowing these little tips on her on how to be really good at fighting and really good at, like, being a gymnast and stuff. I think that could maybe explain away what you're saying.
Yeah, I just think they could consider the reason why it also where it can damage our brand is the fact that every other superhero so far in the Marvel, in the MCU, even the Avengers, when they were coming together, they all went through some kind of trial by fire before they actually got things right. The Avengers, they didn't form together until they literally tried to do things individually, and when it blew up in their face and everything went wrong, and then they literally all united under the one front that, you know what, Loki's trying to get all of us. Yeah, let's deal with him, because he's basically peed all of us off. They came together. She hasn't had any trial by fire. The fact now that you're making her, it's like he's already given her blessing, which to me, that was a bad move. To tell her straight away, oh, you know, you're one of the best archers that I've seen. Because by you saying that to her, there's no room for her to grow. In terms of,
I'll take that.
In the sense that, well, think about it, Manny. Yeah, you already told her, you know, you're one of the best archer. No one can tell her nothing now. Because anyone trying to tell her, you know what, yeah, that shot was a bit off. Oh, you can't tell me nothing. Hawkeye said I'm one of the best. Oh, I'm the greatest in the universe.
Well, let's hope that she doesn't have quite the same ego problems. But
the fact that we're saying how she's being portrayed in a sense is like a privileged, you know, brat in some ways. You giving her that title and that honor, saying you're one of the best archer now, this generation, you go say something to her, oh, you know what, yeah, that shot was a bit off. She go and tweet, oh my God, can you believe it, yeah? Mr. So-and-so, who's only been an arch teacher for like a few years, telling me, the greatest that Hawkeye has ever seen, that my shot was a bit off. Hashtag canceling. You know, there's no room for growth. So even if he thought that she was great, he should say, you know, yeah, you're not bad. Could learn more. So it puts a little doubt in her.
What we're seeing as well is, I think Clint, and again, this is like Clint's story about just picking up strays, and he sees something in her, and I don't know, kind of Clint and Kate Bishop reminds me of other stories they've told in the MCU, especially with Wolverine. But Wolverine loves to pick up a stray as well. Like Wolverine has always had close relationships with, like father-daughter relationships with, like numerous like young female mutants, such as I think Shadowcat was the first one. Then Jubilee, he has a really close relationship. Has this bizarre relationship with an android. Oh my God, I've forgotten her name. This blonde-haired android who ends up blowing up. X-23, kind of as well, who's obviously his like genetic daughter. But I think that's kind of like a similar story there. I think it's a nice story so far. I mean, I do take your point. I personally haven't looked that deep into it because I don't know. I think for me, I think the story's okay. I don't think it doesn't take me out of it that much. But in the comments, sorry. Is Kate a likable person or not so far? I think she's very likable. But anyway, I want to talk about this amazing fight scene. The sequence where we see like the cameraman in the back of the car, and it's just this amazingly well shot scene, and you see like Kate using Clint's arrows, which hint might be created by Hank Pym.
Well, yeah, it was. It's not hint. It was a well-known. That was, to me, that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. When he shot that, then she shot it, and it combined, and then it literally just like expanded and just like went crazy big. It was just like, oh, that to me, that was like one of the coolest things. That would have been absolutely amazing had they used that like in Avengers, in the movies. That would have been crazy on the big screen, seeing that, because that was so unexpected. Like,
well, I'll tell you what, David, give it time. I'm sure there's going to be a Young Avengers movie at some point within the next 5 years. So
yeah, but it's the fact that now we've seen it, it won't have the same effect.
Yeah, but they'll do something even bigger.
Yeah, probably.
Something we haven't thought of. That's why we're sat at home and we're not Marvel writers, because we haven't thought of the idea.
Yeah, but then they have to be very careful with these things, because, you know, often, the reason why I say that is not to downplay, but it's great you make the new generation that they get their own identity. But when you try and discredit what the older, you know, the previous generation has done, let me finish. Don't get in a huff. Let me finish, sir. What I mean is, don't overpower these younger generations if they're now better than the older generation, because that's not necessarily the case.
I haven't seen that.
No, but we haven't seen where they're going in the next 5 years, so we don't know how they're gonna change things.
So let's get it straight. You've once again you've made up a scenario in your head, and you're getting upset.
I'm not. But it's not happening. I'm just saying. Let's hope.
Premise.
Yeah, but it's just like with anything, you're throwing it out there just to say, I hope they don't do that.
David, please calm down. Just stick to reality. Stick to what we know, which is called premise. From premise, you make inference, but you appreciate your inference can be wrong.
Of course, I know I can be wrong. It's happened probably once.
That's what analytical thinking is.
Yeah, it's probably happened once. I mean, maybe I've been wrong once on here before. Maybe once.
You can probably go through at least 10 occasions.
Yeah, but those are.
That might be my next video. Every single time Davey was wrong.
10 previous occasions, Davey P was wrong. And in my defense, what I would then say is, on 10 of those occasions, I could have been right if I wasn't slightly off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so I loved it. I think we get these wonderful scenes when they get back, and you see the scenes between Clint, who's still deaf, and like his son phones him up, and he doesn't know it's his son. He thinks it's his wife, to begin with, and Kate's there like writing out what his son is saying. Yeah, more than once. Trust me. Yeah, indeed, Mr. Cato.
Yeah, man, you've been wrong more than once. I mean, yeah, thank you, Mr. Cato. We're not. You know, we don't need to count the times, Manny P. I'll forgive you, sir.
You and I both know he's not talking about me. And the one time I was wrong, I did apologise live as well. So yeah, we see, and then like he gets back the hearing aid, and I love it as well that him and Kate are talking in the restaurant. And he just really doesn't want to hear Kate, and he just like leaves his hearing aid off. He's just like, just let her talk away. It's fine. I just want my peace and quiet. I just love this curmudgeon, Clint Barton. He reminds me a bit of me actually after I hit 40, just like not caring about stuff and just being, just moaning about everything about the world. I love it.
Maybe you've just hit 40. It's not that long. You're talking like you hit 40 like 10 years ago.
Well, 10 months ago.
Yeah.
Well, 11 months ago.
Yeah, 11 months now. Damn. No, not quite yet.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that. And then essentially we see the other major bit where they kind of go back to Kate's premises, and we see Jacques holding a sword to Clint Barton. Now, my brother came up with a good point. He thinks we're going to find out that actually Jacques, the swordsman, and Clint already know each other. That they're kind of both old school agents, and they may have been working together, or more likely working against each other in some capacity. In the comics, it's actually the swordsman who actually trains Clint Barton to have all the skills that he has. Oh. So I wonder if they'll touch upon that actually maybe Jacques is like an old mentor of Clint's.
That would be interesting.
So yeah, I thought it was a very comfortable episode. Again, actually wasn't a lot that happened, but it was a very nice episode.
I hope they touch on how Echo loses her leg.
Yeah, maybe she was more than that. I don't know, maybe. Hopefully, I hope it is brought up just to, satisfy curiosity. But anyway, David, you wanted to give us a theory about how Hawkeye could potentially connect onto the Eternals.
No, I'm just saying, no, the only connection I'm seeing is the fact that I think it was probably deliberately done where in the Eternals, because I'm not familiar with the comics, the Eternals in the comics.
You're not familiar with a lot of comics from what we found out over the past couple of months.
Yes, Manny. But thanks to you, I've got my comic app, and I will start my reading tomorrow because I'm off. You haven't started
my recommended reading yet, which I gave you.
No, because I've been working, but I'm off from tomorrow. So
okay, very good.
Once I'm off tomorrow now, I've got that time where I can actually do that between doing that and doing some reactions. So check those out. But yeah, I'm not sure if in the actual comics, if they were Eternal that really did have hearing problems, or if this was just a way of trying to introduce a different set of heroes based on different abilities, disabilities. So showing that there are heroes, despite their tremendous gifts, they have regular disabilities, issues like a regular person. So the fact that we saw that in Eternal, and then now coming up in Avengers, or should I say not Avengers, sorry, in Hawkeye, we see now he's also got hearing problem, and Echo's got hearing problem. It's like, was that deliberately done? Were they done that to actually string those along?
I don't think it's deliberately done. I just think it's just part of the storytelling. I think because Hawkeye is deaf as well in the comics, in that particularly, in that, where did I put it? I filed it away. But in that Matt Fraction story, he is deaf in that story as well. I think it's just, I think it's just a bit of coincidence more than anything. Now, let's move on. Apparently, Yelena's going to be in the next episode of Hawkeye. Which is going to be interesting because obviously Val has sent Yelena to kill Hawkeye. She's somehow persuaded Yelena that Hawkeye is responsible for Natasha's death and also responsible for Scarlett Johansson not getting all the money from the Black Widow to release. Okay, I made up the last bit, but I think that would be interesting because you could potentially see a lot of different dynamics. Because Yelena will remind Hawkeye of Natasha in some way, shape, or form, whether it just be similar fighting styles or whatever. I think he will kind of, it will bring back memories of Natasha for him. And Natasha was very much kind of like not underling, like a ward of Hawkeye's, the same way Kate is now. So to see like maybe Kate facing off against the sister of one of his previous wards, I think for him could also be quite emotional for him as well.
But it can't, Manny. That's what I'm saying. Because they just made it so rushed. He hasn't even trained her one day. Literally,
I'm emotionally attached to her. Just because you're not emotionally attached to her, don't mean you have to pass it on to everybody else. Everybody else is enjoying this beautiful father-daughter relationship between Kate and Clint, and you're coming along like, oh, I don't quite. No, everybody else finds it fine. It's just you.
Know what this reminds me of? There's a video. I'm gonna send it to you after of that. RDC. Those guys. I said, oh, they're really cool. Like that do the podcast and stuff. And they always do these. Little skits about how certain things are. They did a skit about a anime. I know I'm slightly digressing, but I'll show you. I'll get to my point. He's showing us a skit about how you ever notice in anime how people become best friends so quickly. And literally, like the guy's walking, he sits on a bench. This guy sat next to him. Hey, how are you? I'm good, thanks. Oh, nice day. See you later. Bye. He walks off. Walks him by a bridge. See a guy walking by him. Morning. That's it. He gets attacked by a villain. As he's about to get killed, his friend sacrifices himself. Who's the friend? The guy that he just said hello to on the bench. Didn't know each other. He's like, yes, you're my best friend. I couldn't let you go. Then he dies. Then next thing, he's about to get attacked again. The guy he walks past on the bridge just jumps out of nowhere. I couldn't let you die. I had to save you.
This is a different dynamic. This is
This is the same thing. He has not done anything with her. He's just met her.
Let me explain. This is a different dynamic between two friends. The dynamic. Clint doesn't see Kate as a friend. Clint sees Kate as a bit of an annoyance.
Yeah, a random annoyance who he's just trying to clean up the mess because that's it. But she's thinking it more than what it is.
Kind of fatherly bond with her. He isn't fully established now, but you can see that the seeds of that bond are now being established. I don't think they've gone overboard in just saying, "Oh, that's kind of like my adopted daughter." I don't think they've done that, but they've now sowed those seeds to say, actually, this bond is now forming. And I think when we see Yelena,
I think the age slightly makes it a little bit off.
We'll see maybe more of those kind of paternal feelings within Clint. Because Clint's lost Natasha. He doesn't want to get close to somebody again, only to lose them again.
Yeah, but Manny, how close can you get to a random person that you just met like the day before?
Do you know something? So experience together are what make people friends and what give each other people like affection for each other. They've been through some pretty hectic experiences together, and that bonds people. It's like how they say, like, soldiers who fought in the trenches together will have like a bond which nobody else can understand because they fought to each other and they see each other at extreme levels.
I can agree with that, but based on what we've seen so far, it's been a case of she's there privileged running around trying to play hero, and he's there like, oh my God, let me try and clean up this mess. And the more he's trying to clean up the mess, the more she's actually just making more of a mess. So in fact, there's not really been anything we could say, I can see the dynamic there. It's more like she's like an annoying child that you're trying to fix, you're trying to like say, don't do this, don't do it. And the more you tell them don't do it, the more they're actually doing it.
Remember, he stayed behind to protect her away from his family. I think
because he saw that she's over her head. She's, again, which is why I said it makes the character seem that way. Like she's just so clueless to the actual reality of what real danger is that she just feels she can run around and play superhero.
That's a privileged background.
Yeah, you're just running around and think that's what I'm saying. When you have that kind of privileged background and you behave like that, where there's never really been any real consequences, because think about it, it shows you that's exactly what our background is. Because a normal person who's at college would never dare think about shooting a bell down and possibly doing that kind of damage, because you know if that happens, you're probably going to face, criminal damage prosecution, charges, and you're also going to get kicked out of school. Her situation, based on her background, she knows anything goes wrong, mommy can write a check and everything gets solved. So therefore, there's never really been any real consequences and repercussion based on
that's fine, but you're just going off on one. You're diverting away from the point I made.
No, but that's what it shows, Manny. The fact that she's so clueless where she doesn't think there's real danger. You look at it, when Tony Stark was actually dealing
about
with
the relationship between Kate and Clint. I'm not talking about her perception of risk.
No, I know what you're saying, but my point is, it's hard to have that dynamic where she's not demonstrated any kind of humbleness to say, she's willing to learn. It's like everything needs to, even if you want to look at it like a mentor thing.
I do generally agree with all that, but that's not pertaining.
And the reason why my next thing
anyway, so apparently, according to Davie, Elena's going to make her debut on episode 4. She's going to murder Kate, and Clint's going to say, "Good, she's dead. I can go back to my family." That's what's going to happen according to Davie.
Well, okay. So far,
are you excited about Elena potentially being in episode 4? Yes or no?
Yes, but depends how they played. They have to have like a good balance, like in terms of how they bring her in. You can't bring her in too overpowered, OP, but you can't bring her in weak as well. So she has to have that, because she's not on that Black Widow level as yet in terms of like her fighting skill and experience. She's got some, but not that level yet.
She should be able to beat Kate. I think we agree that from what the conversations we just had.
Well, we hope so, but Kate, as we've seen, Kate's just Kate. Kate has just got that ability where she just, she's just learning everything as she goes along, and she's just picking it up faster than everyone else. Like,
I guess the dynamic I have to think about as well, that Elena's going to be going after Clint, not going after Kate. So potentially it's going to be a situation where Kate is going to be protecting Clint from Elena as well. Maybe this is the part where.
But that's my point. I know you say, but see, that's where I don't know. Maybe I'm getting miserable or what. But
how can you're getting all mixed? Davey, this isn't a documentary.
It's not a documentary, but Manny, how can a random civilian who's not had any battle experience, who's literally just put on a costume and got themselves in a mess, be able to take on someone? Remember, even despite whatever.
Let me explain this to you.
No, wait. I'm saying, despite Elena's background, she was great. She was trained. She's fully trained by deadly people.
Yes, we know this.
Huh?
We know this.
So then, how would Kate be able to, hypothetically speaking, how would she be able to protect?
Okay, I never said she'll do a good job of protecting.
No, I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm saying, how would they be able to pull that off where it's believable, unless nothing gets too serious, unless it's just a little tussle?
Okay.
I'm all ears now.
Okay, so let's just agree that in terms of fighting ability, Hawkeye's about here. You can see my hand. Elena's probably just about here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably Kate's just about here.
Lower.
Yeah.
Lower.
Okay, down here.
No, not that low. Where the Duke of Hamilton sign is. Yeah, about there.
Okay. Now, Clint is beat up. He's deaf. So that maybe puts Clint maybe more here.
Yeah, mentally, yeah.
And Elena's coming in fresh as well.
With vengeance, so up more.
Yeah. So that puts them about equal. So then all we need is for one annoying, well, you describe her as annoying. I think she's fine.
I didn't say it. You said it.
Little girl called Kate Bishop to just maybe tip the balance for Hawkeye, making it on 2-on-1 situation to make it go, yeah.
But it might actually be a detriment.
That's science. I use science there.
No, reason why I say it might be a detriment, knowing what Helena is capable of, he's probably going to be very worried trying to not only protect himself, but he has to stop worrying about her safety. So that would actually put him at a disadvantage because
I think that's a good point.
He's now having to fight for himself and her.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that we don't know how all these dynamics are going to play out. Like, is she going to actually end up befriending Kate and actually find... Because Elena's still a person who's quite new to the world. She might come across Kate and think, Kate's really cool. And, Kate actually dresses really nicely because Yelena can't dress for love nor money.
Yeah, under different circumstances that might work, but if she's just coming with vengeance on her mind, I think the last thing she'd be thinking about is, oh, let me try and make friends with
I'm just saying there's different scenarios they could play out here. I think the dynamic will be really interesting because I'm not sure they can leave it with Yelena being a bad person, or they might just surprise us and have Yelena totally kill Clint and just leave us with Kate. Got Kate now. Don't need Clint. Sorry, Clint's not going to go home to see his family. They're all going to be terribly upset on Christmas Day.
Because he's dead.
Yeah.
I'd have to read about it on World
Do you know
Star.
whose fault it is? It's your fault, Davie.
Well, no, because then in the comments when underneath that, I'll be the first one to comment like, well, if I had it my way, it would have been Kate, not him dead. And then they were like, oh my God, cancel him. He said that.
They're just like the person who still wants Wesley Snipes to be Blade. You just can't let go of the past.
99%. I guarantee if you do a poll, 99% of the fans out there will say yes, they will choose Wesley Snipes. 10 out of 10.
I'll do a poll. I mean,
you will lose money. Don't do that one. You've been wrong once. Don't be wrong a second time.
Listen, I could lose that poll, but people vote
the outcome. Yeah, he's no longer going to be played.
Doesn't mean that much. Okay, so I'm looking forward to episode 4. I think Yelena's going to be cool. I think we're going to see some good dynamics between Hawkeye and Jacques, and maybe explore potentially if they had a past together. Ooh. I think it's going to be a really interesting episode. Any closing thoughts before we say goodbye to the lovely people?
Yeah, they're showing how smart Kate is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been asking little questions. And you're telling me that she hasn't put 2 and 2 together and figure out that Clint is Ronin?
Yeah, she's been very naive though. She's been very naive. Oh, it's someone close to you, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, he's got Manny. He's got like a big picture in his house with him in the Ronin costume and like his mask off, the hood down. And she's like, that awfully looks like you, but we'll never know the identity of Ronin. And everyone else looking like, really? It's right there. He's got the ID Ronin here. I'm out here, and she still can't. I just thought that was a bit like. Really?
I mean, she might be. She hasn't realised. It's really weird that the Ronin outfit smells like Lynx Africa, and you use Lynx Africa as well. That's just really weird.
Yeah, and everything else, you're about the same build as him. You look exactly like him. How could they have mistaken me? Unless they're saying I look like a man, I'm built like a man, or unless they're saying you're built like a woman. But how could anyone?
Maybe they're just being naive, or maybe she's being naive on purpose. But no, I think she's naivety is definitely a thing with Kate.
They're not even the same height though, Manny P. That's what I'm saying. And
I was thinking that the costume must have been a bit baggy around the legs.
Yeah, and they're looking at that. Oh my God, Ronin is back. He looks a bit skinny and shorter, but yes, it's definitely Ronin. Yeah, he hasn't got his sword, and he doesn't move like Ronin. He's not as powerful.
Really nice eyes as well. How did that happen? Right.
And he smells very feminine. It's just like, yeah.
Indeed. Right, so I think that's everything. We'll be back next week to review episode 4. I'll be back next week. Not sure about that.
And I'll be on time because I won't be on a night shift, so I'll be on time. And see, I'm literally just up for this, and I'm going back to work in like 25 minutes. But
are you? Oh, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the gym. I've actually, for the first time, I've got my shorts on with my gym leggings on underneath. I look stupid right now, but who cares?
Go on, stand up, give the fans a twirl.
Okay. So you can't see, but that's my shorts. They're my gym leggings on underneath.
My God, I was going to say your legs need a tan, but those are the leggings. Those are the leggings.
I'm going to go and have what's my day today? It's cardio.
Tanning day?
Huh?
Tanning day for the legs?
It should be tanning day. No, I think it's my cardio day today. So I'm going to do some cardio, going to do a bit of planking. I'm going to do some medicine ball stuff. I'm going to do some squats as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to hit up the punching bag as well. That's what I'm going to do today. And you're going to
So
go
yeah,
to
we haven't
work,
done this for a while, Manny. So what score would you give out of 10 for this episode?
That's a good question because I'm enjoying the episodes. As I said, they're not blowing me away, but they're just like a really comfy jumper for me. Daddy, I'm not entirely sure what you're laughing at there. Was it my gym leggings?
Because we thought it was your legs that looked that pale. Now, hashtag, let's start a GoFundMe, get Manny P some tanning cream for his legs so he can get to one of those, was it those like tanning booth?
Yeah, that's what they're called, yes. I would, this is a difficult question. Within the context of the series in the MCU, I'd give this episode, no, I'm just going to give it a 7. But with some very good scenes.
So give us 2 good, this is a new segment now I'm going to do. 2 good, 2 bad.
2 what?
2 good things you thought they got really well in the episode, and 2 things you thought they could have improved on, or they could have.
Okay, so one of the really good things I felt was the scene with the camera in the back seat, which filmed the entire fight sequence.
Yeah,
it felt like it wasn't in one take, but it felt like it was in one take, which was really cool. And I really liked the interplay between Clint and Kate when Clint was there, and I really loved that scene where she's kind of she's sort of transcribing what Clint's son is saying to him over the telephone. That scene really touched me.
But touching on that, Manny, I know we're just trying to like finish up, but wouldn't his family know that he's got hearing problem?
Yeah, but it was the youngest son, wasn't it?
Well, surely he must know. Why has he learned sign language with the youngest son? They were doing sign languages together.
Yeah,
remember,
but
in episode 2.
I think the son must have thought, he would have his hearing aid in.
Yeah, but the fact that he can talk, you could say, "Oh, hey, buddy, I haven't got daddy's not got his hearing in, so you'll have to text me or something." But
yeah, I think he just didn't want to worry him, just wanted to pretend like things were normal.
But that's the thing. Well, that's good, but at the same time, that could actually make him like, if Kate wasn't there, that could make him an irresponsible parent. The son could have been called like, "Daddy, Mom just fell and busted her. Oh, that's good, buddy. That's nice. Yes, you can go outside and play with the dog." Like, and he's not hearing.
If Kate wasn't there, then he's screwed either way. Like his hearing aid's broken. I'd like to think the older kids would text Clint instead and say, "Mom's had an accident."
Well, these new generation, from as young as they are,
let's not spend too much time criticizing Clint's parenting techniques. 2 bad things. Again, no, I do agree with you. I think they're making Kate too good too soon. I do agree with you in that respect. And another bad thing, it's just such a nice episode. I can't find anything else that was entirely bad. Quickly, what are your? Because I really have to get to the gym. Quickly, what are your 2 good things and 2 bad things?
2 good things. I like the actual the normal worries and fears and things like that. What he has, so it's a different side. You're getting to see like a person, even though he's part of the Avengers, still just a regular guy, or he wants to be a regular guy, which means he has regular worries. So it's good, he has regular problems he has to deal with. Oh, my kids want me to be home for this, but I've got this issue. So I like that it shows that even with all the saving the world, you still have, you still have to answer to a higher power. That's the kids, the family. If you don't do it, no matter what, there's no excuse. So I like that. I also I really love the fact that, he's got all these super tech arrows that's, we didn't really get to see much of. We knew he had him based on the movies, based on what he's done sometimes, but the fact they've now acknowledged that and showed you, he does have some of these around with him. I thought that was really good. Bad for me is, again, the way I think they're trying to just overplay Kate on what she's capable of, her abilities without even learning. She hasn't even learned to crawl, yet still she's already flying already. to me is a little bit much, which they can actually like work on. And the next bad, what can I say is the next bad besides that? The irresponsibility of Clint, in the sense, one, she's not even he refers to her as a child, yet still he's giving her high-tech arrows to use.
Survival mode, man.
You know, that was a little bit irresponsible. And again, my point about him talking to his son without hearing what's going on. Anything could have been going on, and he's just there responding with any, in any way, shape, or form. That could have been based on, I don't want to make him seem like a normal person at the same time. If he's a normal caring parent, he would be like, oh, buddy, ain't this and that. But that's just little things. But apart from that, I'll give the episode, I'll give it a 7 as well out of 10.
Just remember, this is the same Davie who thought it was totally justifiable for Shang-Chi's dad to force him into getting revenge for his mom when he was like 10 years old. Apparently fighting for
you just said it. What did you just say? That was survival.
No.
That was survival you just said, right? When she was doing it. Hey, that was survival too. That was for family honor. Just as important.
It wasn't survival in that moment. That's the difference.
Family honor is survival.
Between hot-blooded survival and cold-blooded and being in and boarding up to a moment. Anyway, as social services are currently on their way round to Davies' house to interview him, we're going to say...
They'll be around Clint first after seeing that episode.
It's okay. I think Clint's fine. Clint wasn't doing anything wrong as a parent.
Yeah, get Kate's mama to write a check. Yeah, just make everything right. Privileged.
Listen, we don't need your conspiracy theories here. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are going to say goodbye and farewell. And we will see you next week.
We're out.